Hello, friends. Okay, so I had this inspiration, cascading of thoughts this morning, that I was thinking about typing up for a newsletter, but then realized typing isn't always my thing. And so why not make a video about it and have that be the newsletter and people can watch it or listen to it however they want to. Um, And when I did these in the past, I think I would pull a card. And so I did. I asked Animal Power Deck, what is it that we all need to know right now? What is the message? And I really chuckled when the when the card came out because yeah. So the message that we all need to know is comes from Condor, receive messages from Spirit. And the book says Condor represents the wisdom and power of the heart, and Condor medicine will help you open your heart to spiritual messages. When Condor reveals, it is an important time to be aware of any messages trying to make their way to you from Great Spirit, Source, your ancestors, or benevolent guides. Connect to Condor by closing your eyes and imagining the great bird in flight. Inhale deeply, sending your breath to your heart center, the space in the center of your chest. With each exhalation, clear away any foggy or darker energies. Ask Great Spirit or Source, what message do you have for me today? You can also ask the same question of a particular guide or ancestor. Condor Medicine invites you to trust that if you leap into the unknown, you will soar with the support of Great Spirit Source beneath your wings at all times. So, and then the card, I'm just laughing because the card's right next to me. The card on the bottom of the deck is Snake, welcome higher guidance. So I don't love that this camera keeps moving now with I got a new computer and there's not a way to turn it off that I can find. So if you know how to turn that off, it's not a Zoom thing. I think it's like a camera in the laptop thing. Okay, so what I want to talk about. So the cascading of thoughts that occurred led me to led me to this thought of us having okay, so us taking for granted our gifts or a gift, right? And taking it for granted might be that we don't recognize it as the magic that it is, or maybe we are like, yeah, but it like comes so easy, so it's like not that big of a deal, right? We like downplay it because it is natural for us, right? Which our gifts are going to come naturally to us. It's why they are our gifts. But they're not going to come naturally to everybody else, right? So just like I believe everyone can communicate with animals, I also don't believe that everyone can communicate with animals to the same depth, right? So I do believe we can all speak to them. I know they're all speaking to us. So we can all hear them in some capacity and be able to communicate back with them. The depth, the types of conversations, like what that relationship, that give and take looks like is going to be different for each person because not everyone is here to have those depth and deep conversations with animals or with spirits or, whatever the gift is. And so it's just like numbers, right? Not everybody can see numbers in the same depth and capacity that like a mathematician can see numbers. And so it's understanding that our gifts are our gifts and they're going to be the things that come easy to us or that come maybe not always easy, right? Because there can be so much conditioning that is layered on top of our gifts that especially if they're spiritual gifts, right? That we have to peel back before we can actually get to the gift and have ease with the gift. And once we get to that point, it's going to come more effortlessly, right? You might have to work for it, but like there'll be this drive, this devotion that comes with it because it's part of your map in this lifetime, right? It's part of what you're here to do. And so allowing yourself to follow that devotion, to follow that drive, to follow um that ease, that effortlessness ease that comes with gifts, right? Teaching is a gift. Not everyone can teach. Not everyone has the patience for teaching. And then teaching the different types, right? So not even just like topics, but like kids versus teens versus adults versus, all the things. So first it's recognizing like what are our gifts, right? And so, like I said, they're likely going to come easy-ish to you in some way. They're going to be more effortless. Like I wasn't always able to just like, right, so the way that I communicate with animals is through meditation. So I wasn't always able to just like shut my eyes and like be instantly communicating or connected to an animal. Now I can, right? Before, I'm also a very routine person, so like I like the ritualisticness of opening the space and inviting in the animal. But now I really can like open up the picture and either just like start having a conversation with them or shut my eyes and like be together. And that's come from a lot of practice. That's come from a lot of capacity building. That's come from a lot of devotion to the gift. And so recognizing the gift is the first thing. The second thing is then looking at how much do you recognize and celebrate that gift? How much do you see it as a gift? How much do you see it as a powerful gift? How much do you see it as a gift to the world and not just a gift you have, right? Because the way that we view our gifts is going to likely be the way in which others tend to view our gifts. And so if we're looking at our abilities and whether we've built businesses around them or not doesn't really matter. But if we're looking at them and we're like, "Ugh, why don't other people value them? Or like, why aren't other people like, lining up to be able to experience this? Why aren't other people like in awe?" I would ask you, are you in awe of your own gift? Do you see the power in it? Are you recognizing yourself or are you waiting for others to recognize it for you before then you're able to then for yourself say, wow, I am really good. Right? And like I understand this deeply and I'm actually going through this right now with one of my gifts of like, oh, isn't that interesting? Okay, like that's partly where this whole conversation's coming from is my own revelation of my own stuff. And sometimes we're like, well, yeah, but like I don't want to be arrogant or I don't want to come off as whatever. And I mean, if that's the fear, then you're likely not going to be able to see yourself and your gifts in that deep capacity because you're going to keep yourself small, right? And so are you keeping yourself small to shield yourself, to protect yourself so that others can't reject you, right? So that others can't look at you and be like, ooh, you communicate with animals? Like, that's weird, right? Which, like, people are going to say, and that is totally cool, right? You might have people that come to you if you're like a tarot reader and be like, you're communing with the devil. Like, are you okay? Like, do you need to be saved? Like, I care about your soul and I want you to be okay. And like, this recently happened to somebody I know, right? And so that is potentially going to happen depending on what your gifts are and the people in the world and just where we're at in humanity, right? And so if you're if you're deep if you have a deep wound of rejection and abandonment, that is then the thing that gets to be worked on and healed and looked at and integrated before you're able to like really embody your own gifts because it's not about the gift, it's about the wound. And so it's looking at, and this is where it can be kind of difficult sometimes to understand where things are coming from because it's not always the surface level thing, right? It's not always the thing that gets your attention. It's the thing underneath the thing, underneath the thing, underneath the thing, right? It's not always about the gift and the bigness of the gift or the sensitivity of the gift. It's the what is this? How does this potentially shake my stability in the community or in the world or in my support system, right? Does this make me unlovable? Will this make me be farther away from a partner than closer, right? Like what is the wound underneath it that is keeping it something that you're taking for granted or something that you're making small? Because if you were to embrace it, if you were able to see it in the bigness of what it is, what would happen, right? Like, what's the fear of what might happen that is underneath the wanting to stay small, right? Or wanting to play it off like no big deal. It's like, actually, it's a big fucking deal. Like, let yourself be in that energy. Like, it's a big fucking deal. And this goes for all gifts, regardless of what they are, right? I'm so grateful that we all have gifts of varying things because I was just talking about this to somebody. Like, I'm so grateful that there's people in the world that love accounting. There's not one part of me that wants to do taxes, right? There's not one part of me. I hated accounting in college. Ugh, accounting and finance were my least favorite classes, and I probably did the worst in. And so I'm so grateful that there's people out there that are like, yeah, I get this and I like it. And like, this is what I do. I'm like, thank you so much. Right. I'm grateful that there's people in the world that like to or do deliver hay. Right. I don't have the ability to go get it. And then I don't necessarily have the desire to then stack it. And so, like, I'm so grateful that there's people that are like, yeah, I'll do that. That feels fun and like something I'd like to do on my off time. Like, oh, I'm so grateful, right? I'm so grateful for everyone. And so, how can we look at that in our outside world of like, oh, I'm so grateful that that person has embraced their gift, has embraced something that they like to do, they love to do, that they're passionate about? And how can we turn that back in on ourselves and say, am I doing the same? Am I embracing my own gifts? Because if I'm not embracing my own gifts, nobody else can then look at me and be like, oh, I'm so grateful that they are doing that. So that I can then say to them, please, can you help me? Right? Like, I'm so grateful. We're not all meant to do all the things, right? So grateful that there's people that care about the body and from varying different degrees, right? And different angles, like people that are doctors and people that are nutritionists and people that are body workers and people that are physical therapists and people that are surgeons and people, right? Like across the, like you take interest in the human body or the animal body, you can approach that from so many different angles. And I'm so grateful for all of them, right? Like we need all of the angles and for all the different things. And so all of that to say, where in your life are you not seeing your own gifts as a gift, right? Where are you not seeing your own gifts as like a really joyful experience in your life? Where are you downplaying what comes easy to you and saying, oh, it's no big deal when it's actually a really big deal? And it doesn't have to be this big deal of like, make it all about me and like make it a big deal if somebody else doesn't make it a big deal. But like, how can we see it as the bigness of what it is? Right. So those were just some of the thoughts that are coming through this morning. I guess it's still morning. And yeah, like if the world isn't recognizing our gifts, then how are we not recognizing our gifts? And how are we downplaying them? Or where are we waiting for others to tell us that we're good enough or that we're great or that, oh, you should do this? I love that word should, that you should do this as your work in the world. Who's to tell us what we're meant to be doing in the world? And at the same time, how much are we waiting for others to tell us what to do in the world? You know? And so, how can we come back to us and say, what is true for me without needing the outside world to tell me, to validate, to confirm? It is nice to have the confirmation, right? It is nice to have somebody be like, wow, you're really good at this. Like, yeah, thank you. Like, I really appreciate it, right? Like, I love hearing back from people after sessions because of the way in which I do them. is not interactive. And so I don't really know how things land until or if somebody responds and tells me. And so it's always nice to be appreciated, right? It's always nice to hear on the other side of things. And are we using that to actually follow the dream, right? To actually follow what is in our heart? Or are we using that as the like, yep, okay, like kind of like the confirmation of I'm doing it and the world is seeing it too. Do you kind of see like the distinction there? So anyway, hopefully some of this was thought-provoking in some capacity or just helpful of like viewing things in a different way. Um, because yeah, it can be so easy for us to downplay ourselves, but then celebrate others so easily, right? Like in the same breath be like, "Oh, I'm okay, but like so and so is amazing." Or be like, "Oh, it's no problem. It's like not that, it's not that hard, so it's fine." And then turn around and be like, "Wow, I am so grateful for all of your work on XYZ," right? But we're not doing that for ourselves and we're not valuing our time, our energy, our own devotion to what has led us to the gifts being able to emerge, especially when we're talking about spiritual gifts. Because spiritual gifts tend to have a price tag that come along with them because of the world in which we live in, because there's so much conditioning that comes with this lifetime that we have to decondition from before the spiritual gifts can really take root and flourish within our body and our life. And so it it can be a lot. And depending on the gift can depend on the severity in which the going through it can really be going through it. As somebody who has been through a few initiations of gifts in my lifetime, the last couple years, um, yeah, it is no joke. It is a gift on the other side, and going through it's yeah, it's a lot. So I feel you if you are somebody who has really gone through it in order to step into the life that you're meant to have, right? To step into the role that you were meant to have, to step into the service that you were meant to have, that you signed up to have. And that doesn't always mean that life gets to be easy peasy. I mean, I don't know that anyone's life is ever easy peasy. It's just a different varying of hardship, right? It's always going to feel hard for the person, regardless of what it looks like from somebody on the outside, right? Or comparing it to somebody else's hardship. There's not comparing because for the person going through it, it's going to feel hard. They don't have the comparing to do it to, right? They can't say, "Oh, this isn't as bad as XYZ," because you don't know because you haven't gone through XYZ. You can maybe imagine it's not the same, but like you have your own life. It's not meant to be compared to others. It's not meant to be like, "Oh, I need to not feel, my feelings because, I don't have it so bad." Like we all have feelings. Let yourself have your feelings. And also, like, find yourself through the feelings, like, walk through the feelings. Don't get stuck in the feelings. All right, I'm getting way off topic. So I'm going to end this because I can go down a whole rabbit hole now. Um, all right. Well, I hope something in here was interesting. And yeah, I will talk to you all soon. Bye for now.